I spoke to one woman who lives right behind me here. Only one street separates these homes from thousands of acres of damage. The fire is tucked into the woods behind me here, still about 4 miles from the nearest home. She says she was devastated to see everything she and her friends had up in flames. Doors will be shut from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Dr. Brueggemann says this may be the first time ever the hospital has seen this level of boots on the ground support from the federal government. Jake, you can see the door here now boarded up. I talked to several families who are stressed and worried. They still have no idea where they're going to be living next. You can see the smoke and the burned out trees behind me here, and it's taking them longer to get to those calls because of all of the snow we've been inundated with. Getting this 60-day notice came as a huge shock to the Fishnick family. His body found in this area behind me here. It's an emotional day for her, seeing this trial begin after nearly 3 years, with hundreds of traps just like this one set up all across Grandview. That count has surpassed 25,000. And he tells me those testing strips have played a huge role in helping keep fentanyl from killing him and his friends in his neighborhood. Renee and Josh Fishnick have been renting the same house for years. At the end of March, they were given notice that the owner was putting the house on the market.
How are we going to find a place? I mean, there's a pandemic going on.
They're not alone. Many property owners have been forced to sell, leaving tenants with few options as the eviction moratorium has been in place for over a year now. The Fishnicks say they've kept up with their rent throughout the pandemic. Now they've put in applications for nearly 40 rental units. They've been denied each time, with Ellensburg's rental market among the tightest in the state.
It's not fair, especially when you have kids. You want to bring them up right and in a home with love, unconditional love, and support from their parents, and it's very frustrating.
With nowhere left to turn, they may soon be jumping from one hotel to the next while their kids finish the school year.
And my kids all do very well in school. And to move them back out of a school that they're doing good and it's probably going to mess them up.
Enrique Jevons manages the property the Fishnicks are living in. He manages over 700 properties and owns 100 himself. He's had to sell several, and many other owners have too.
Certainly for the tenants, yeah, there are much fewer choices.
He says this fallout from the eviction moratorium is widespread. So what should tenants like the Fishnicks do?
I would imagine she's going to have to broaden her geographic search.
Well, this area right behind me here is where detectives tell me they found clothing and shoes the parents say sound like they belong to their missing daughter. Investigators have wrapped up their search right in this area, but tell me they are putting all of their focus on bringing that missing woman home to her family. After several more armed carjackings in Oregon, police say 25-year-old Aurelio Escobar has been caught in Medford, Oregon, following a high-speed chase and a shootout with police.
It gave us an instant sense of relief that he has been taken into custody so that we can stop him from creating more havoc along, Washington and Oregon, and before he victimizes anybody else.
Seeley says as soon as Escobar's out of surgery and able to talk, he'll be flying a detective down right away. Yesterday, we learned Escobar's girlfriend is also missing.
We have to try to find the information that he's holding as to what happened to his girlfriend.
Police say they found what appeared to be a substantial amount of blood in the back seat of the car Escobar drove to Yakima before he demanded car keys from a man on the Greenway next to Bergland Lake and shot him 3 times. Officers say that car belonged to Escobar's girlfriend's parents. Authorities say 24-year-old Jennifer Caridad, who you can see here, has been missing since Friday and was last seen with her boyfriend, Escobar, at a Sunnyside gathering. Detectives have been collecting evidence all morning at Bergland Lake, flying a drone and using a boat with an underwater camera after they say they found articles of clothing and shoes they say may belong to the missing woman. They say they also found a tarp with blood on it in that same area. Sunnyside police and Yakima police detectives say they're working as hard as possible to bring Caridad home to her family and hopefully bring her back alive.
We're going to keep working on it, and we're going to stay after it until we can come to some type of conclusion or location of where she may be. And we may have to wait some time. We may have to wait till he comes out of surgery and see if he'll tell us. We're just going to keep trying to work backwards from the last time anybody's seen her.
Farm workers, our community is unique in that we have to present a body count in order to get the state to move.
On July 29th, the Yakima County coroner says 76-year-old Florencio Guetta Vargas was found slumped over on his tractor in a Toppenish hot field just after 2 p.m. The coroner, Jim Curtis, says it was about 97 degrees in the field when he was found.
Heat death is entirely preventable. We know that. What it takes to keep people safe in these, high temperatures is not that complicated.
His death comes just 2 weeks after the state implemented new emergency heat rules. They require employers to provide shade for their workers and a paid 10-minute rest break to cool down every 2 hours once temperatures hit 100 degrees. Also under the emergency rules, employers need to provide cool water once temperatures hit 89 degrees.
Above 85, above 89, above 95. All of these are different levels of red flags, that are very serious before you get to the arbitrary number of 100 degrees.
Dina Lorraine, a spokesperson for LNI, says they don't anticipate changing the emergency temporary heat rule before September 30th. That's when the heat rules are no longer in effect for the year. As for LNI's investigation, she says it'll include interviews of the employer and employees, saying they'll look through their safety plans and make sure they're following all of the rules for health and safety.
Were there some things that they could have done with this employee? Better training, a better communication, whatever it is, we may find that they did everything perfectly, and it's just an unfortunate circumstance.
The UFW's Elizabeth Strader says Guetta Vargas leaves behind a wife and 6 daughters who still have so many questions.
His daughter had shared with us that she really does not know what it's going to take for farm workers to not be seen as disposable.
I joked around about it, but I'm getting to think maybe I'm going to be one of these street people.
During the eviction moratorium, the governor put a pause on rent increases, but that rent freeze has expired. According to the Tenants Union of Washington, landlords can raise rents as much as they want, as long as they comply with the appropriate notice period and have not issued the notice to discriminate or retaliate against the tenant. Just the other day, 67-year-old Valerie Bizard got one of those notices.
Some people are lucky enough to have family and a place where they can have kind of a soft spot to land, but there are an awful lot of us that no longer have that luxury.
She's lived in the same home in Yakima for the last 11 years. Soon her rent will increase by 37%.
It's terrifying. I'm scared.
Between the new cost of rent and all of her bills,
I have nothing left to live on.
Her neighbor Victor Humphrey, also on a fixed income, is in the same boat.
What am I going to do? Where am I going to go?
For people like them, the rental assistance here is not available since they haven't been behind on their rent during the pandemic. So what can tenants like them do?
I personally don't have an answer for these folks unless we can find them a subsidy, unless we can have more available affordable housing.
Housing advocates say this problem is widespread.
Their rent's going up to an astronomical amount that they can't afford. They become unsustainable at that point. If that snowballs, we're going to have a crisis for sure.
People in this valley work hard for their money.
Ernesto Gonzalez of Gonzalez & Sons Carpentry here in Yakima has been in business for the last 25 years. In 2020, he says he began to learn a man he never met was using his company license number to scam people here in Yakima and across the state, asking those victims for down payments for work he never finished and in some cases never even started.
That's not right. That should be stopped.
The only thing the two had in common was the same last name. That's all detailed in an investigation by the State Department of Labor and Industries. LNI says 39-year-old Antonio Gonzalez has been cited for 30 civil infractions dating back to July 2021 that carry fines of over $110,000. In October, Michael Marmon of Pasco says he also fell victim to Antonio Gonzalez. He says he needed an addition done on his shop and ended up giving Antonio $2,000.
He seemed like a real responsible guy. He had a LNI number and everything. We verbally made a deal. He scribbled out a receipt.
But he says the guy never did the work.
From then on,
it was excuses after excuses.
According to LNI, Marmon is one of many people who've lost money to this man.
2,000 is a lot of money to me because I'm a retired old guy, but these poor guys I talked to who were taken for tens of thousands, I just felt terrible for it.
Now Ernesto Gonzalez and Marmon are frustrated that this person hasn't been arrested yet, wondering why there hasn't been any criminal charges filed. We took that question to Yakima County Prosecutor Joe Brusick. Can you tell me why there haven't been criminal charges filed yet?
Well, this has been an ongoing investigation through the Department of Labor and Industries for the past year. It's not just a matter of throwing charges out there. We want to make sure that we work with LNI and obtain all further information.
It was a beautiful service. Axel's uncle, Tomas ACOSTA, gave the eulogy. Tomas thought of Axel as if he were his own son.
He was like my son.
On November 5th, 21-year-old Axel ACOSTA's life was cut short at a Travis Scott concert in Houston, Texas. At first, the family had to scramble to find answers.
We were told one thing and then we were told another. When we got the news, it was somewhat comforting because we found him not the way we wanted to find him, but we found him.
Friends and family came into town to gather at the Highland Community Church this morning to say their last goodbyes to Axel and to celebrate his life. While today is a sad day, his uncle Tomas says it's hard to know Antonio, as his family called him, would never get to cook for them again, and they'd never get to give him another hug. But he says the family feels peace in knowing he's in a better place now.
In the sense that he's going ahead of us and he's in a better place, that's comforting for us as a family.
One of the memories ACOSTA cherishes most is thinking back to when Antonio was a little boy, always excited to see his uncle when he'd come home from work, leaping into his arms.
He was a big little kid, but he will want to be in my arms. So those are the good memories that we share.
The young man had big dreams for himself. As he was studying computer science, his uncle says building computers was one of his biggest passions.
And always pushing himself to make better things like computers. He would go from one computer to the next, and every time he tried to do better.
The family says they're grateful for all of the kind words people have shared about Axel and thankful for the people who were with him in his last moments.
He wasn't alone, and we're thankful for that. That even though we couldn't be there, God was still with him through the prayers of the other people that were there.
And one of the moments that touched me the most in the service was when 5 of Axel's little cousins got to sing him a song. It was just really beautiful. I even started tearing up myself. But now Axel has been laid to rest at the Terrace Heights Memorial Park in Yakima.